What if I told you I made my own NBA universe, but it's full of created players, and the only way I could make it possible was with your help? Let me explain. I always wonder how different the NBA would be if some of the ghosts we know and love today didn't exist, or just played different roles in society. Like, what if Michael Jordan was just a 6'6" shoe designer with Nike? What if LeBron was just a 6'8" pizza man? What if Shaq was just a karate teacher? How would the NBA hold up with all their stars and history completely erased? Getting those answers will be my objective for the whole 2K24 cycle. I immediately hopped on my NBA and started making my own custom league in 1984, deleting all the top players out of the draft classes like Hakeem, Mike, Charles Barkley. You get the point. From 1984 to 1987, the league was dominated by a randomly generated player named Barney Davis. So he good. Multiple time champ. And I was cool with that because I really wanted to start importing my own characters into the league around 1988, so it worked out. From there, I changed a few rules around, kinda rewrote some old history a bit, made my own expansion teams for the future, and I made a few unique paths that players could choose to get to the league. The names I came up with was the Youth, the Campus, and the Euro. High school, college, and overseas in simpler terms. The next step was getting the talent for the future of this league. I couldn't come up with all them fictional player builds by myself, so I thought I'd make a Discord server with a template so the people could follow to create their own custom character. And once a player was approved by an admin, I would start the creation process and assign the player to a draft class. And dog, a lot of people made characters. I had to make multiple draft classes. It was like 100+ players I had to make. But through the grace of God, I got it done. So now, we will get to see who becomes a superstar, a bust, or just a regular role player in this NBA. And if you really ask, you'll find yourself in Shanghai, or the Development League once it's introduced in 2001. Your fate is in the 2K God's hands, but the league future is in our hands. So before we get into it, it's only right I give y'all all the history for what I call the league. In 1976, the ABA still decided to cease operations and merge with the NBA. The Spurs, Nets, Pacers, Nuggets, Tropics, and Stars would become official clubs in the NBA, while the rest of the teams would be disbanded upon the merger. But without players like Magic, Michael Jordan, and a long list of other legends, the league was flat out struggling compared to the NFL, MLB, and other sports leagues. I mean, attendance numbers were going down. The talent in the draft pool was getting worse and worse every year. They needed some real talent fast, or this league was gonna be done before the 80s ended. I mean, it was so bad. In 1986, the New York Knicks signed the local street ball legend named Booger Manigault to play starting point guard. And this man sold crack. Luckily for them, help was on the way. The 1987 NBA draft was coming up, and the Sonics held the 1st and 9th overall picks in that draft. And it was only about 2 players out of this class that would dominate at the professional level. Eddie Lowe was a 6'9" All-American forward from Sacramento State University, and right alongside him was his 6'2" sidekick, Doobie Dawkins. And it's only one word that I could use to describe their impact on that program: eventful. Sacramento State was the talk of the town when they was on campus. I mean, there was always something going on. The stands were full of fans watching the Low Dog Connection in full effect. That was enough for the Sonics to select Eddie with the 1st overall pick, and Doobie with the 9th pick as well, reuniting the college duo in the NBA. The city of Seattle was ecstatic. Their rookie year as a team was horrible, but Lowe and Dawkins had solid rookie seasons to say the least. I mean, Eddie won the 6th Man of the Year as a rookie and made the All-Rookie First Team. And Doobie had a pretty decent year as well. He made the All-Rookie First Team as well. So that left the Seattle fans really excited about the future. But in other news, within the next 2 off seasons, the NBA planned to add 4 new expansion teams to the league: the Miami Heat, Charlotte Hornets, Orlando Magic, and the Minnesota Timberwolves was on the way. From 1988 to 1990, the league was about to get introduced to arguably some of the best players the NBA had ever seen. The quote-unquote can't-miss prospects in 1988 were Purvis Namor from LSU, Bernard Ward from Kentucky, and the Arkansas big man Malcolm Hutchinson. Okay, that's cool, but how did they turn out? Namor was the first player off the board going to the LA Clippers, and he had a pretty nice career so far. I mean, it's not like he's not a 2-time MVP and 9-time All-Star or nothing, just a decent player. But in all seriousness, when his career is all said and done, he'll definitely be a Hall of Famer. even though the media doesn't see it that way. That's all they were saying. If he's so good, why he couldn't win a championship? Hey, I mean, that's a valid question. Purvis damn near went ghost in the playoffs, if his teams even made it that far. He was almost 33 years old going into his 13th season in the NBA and had never been to an NBA Finals in his whole career. And that's pretty tragic for him. But these college teammates had plenty of championship experience. Michigan State starting five in 1988 featured 4 future first-round picks that easily won the NCAA tournament with no problem at all. Michael St. Bartholomew and Kyle Washington were both lottery picks in that 88 draft, but they weren't seen as the best players from that stacked Michigan State team. All the NBA hype was for Henry Woodham and Ricky Simmons. Bart and Washington was just along for the ride. Simmons was supposed to be the #1 pick in 1989, but slid all the way to the New Orleans Jazz, 8th overall, after news broke that he allegedly punched a trainer in the face during a pre-draft workout. Henry Woodham would be picked by the Minnesota Timberwolves 10th overall in 1989, but he never really found his place on that terrible Minnesota team, and he was out of the league entirely by 1997. Bartholomew eventually became a 7-time All-Star and a 9-time Six-Man Award winner. Yes, you heard that right. He won it 9 times. He liked coming off the bench to obliterate his opponent and simply sit back down. He completely revolutionized the art of bench players. He won the award so many times the NBA decided to officially name it after him in 1999. He also won back-to-back championships with Golden State in 1992 and 1993, and he made one All-NBA team in 1994. Crazy. But what's even crazier is how the media said the only reason Bartholomew and Washington got picked so high in the draft was because they were sidekicks to Woodham and Simmons in college, and that was just so far from the truth. Well, at least for Bartholomew. But for Washington, they were literally spot on. Kyle Washington would end his NBA career in 2000 with 7 championships under his belt without doing a goddamn thing. He never made an All-Star team or got any individual awards in his career, just rings. And that's not bad. He played for numerous teams over the course of his career, where he always just seemed to be on the right team at the right time and benefited from just being around, just like he did in college. In the fall of 2000, Washington was hired as Chapel Hill Lutheran's head coach in North Carolina, which was his alma mater, so it made sense. He technically knew what it took to win at the next level, so why not hire him? I gotta admit though, he was a great role player on those really good Miami Heat teams in the late 90s. Cause I mean, Nate Rubin definitely knew what he was doing when it came to the future of his team. In 1988, the Miami Heat won the 2nd pick in that draft after literally just being introduced to the league in that offseason. The head coach at the time was Charles Sloan, and he wanted to pick Ermias Segou, a 6'11" center from the University of Maryland. But newly hired GM Nate Rubin knew that Bernard Ward from Kentucky was going to change the basketball culture in Miami for years to come. He led his underwhelming Kentucky team to the NCAA championship by himself. Imagine what he could do for Miami. Ward was their guy. From 1989 to 1993, the Heat were pretty much bad, to say the least. They got the 12th pick in 1989 and selected Jimmy Macklin from Ole Miss. He turned out to be an absolute monster on both sides of the floor. Then in 1990, the Heat selected Lou Jones with the 1st overall pick because they were in serious need of a big man. Over the years, players started to develop, a better coach got hired, and they got better. Jones and Ward became a deadly duo down low. Both players became all-stars, all-NBA, and all-defensive team players. Bernard won an MVP in 1991. Macklin won a Defensive Player of the Year and made a couple all-star teams. And no, it's not over. Miami wasn't done picking good players yet. Miami drafted an absolute steal in the 2nd round of the 1991 draft, who turned out to be another Kentucky forward named Will Wells. This is a true story. He was only drafted to Miami due to Bernard's request. You better draft Will Wells, man. I don't care how you get him here. Get his ass here or I'm out of here when my contract's up, said Ward. And the front office was panicking. They were like,
"Oh, Bernard, how could you say something like that? I thought we were family. We don't know anything about this Will Wells guy. We're not trying to waste a pick on him. It's gonna be a lot of logistics and, you know, it's gonna take a couple of moves to pull something like that off."
The front office was just trying to tell him anything. But Bernard wasn't stupid. He wanted Will Wells as his teammate, and he was willing to stand on that if they didn't listen to what he said. He would leave if they didn't get Will Wells there. So what you think they did? Ward and Wells were teammates Miss at Kentucky in '88, so Ward knew the kid had potential to be pretty good if the right organization gave him a chance. It had to be Miami. It took him a few years to adjust, but something just clicked. Going into the 1996 season, the Heat were pretty much unstoppable. Just look at all the accomplishments they had. They were balling. Miami won 4 championships between 1996 and 2000. And it's safe to say when it's all said and done, it's gonna be 4 Hall of Famers that was on this team. All organic, strictly built off drafting the right players and getting the right staff around them. And that was all orchestrated by the legendary Nate Rubin. Hands down one of the best general managers in NBA history. The constant debate in 1988 was who was the better big man out of Ermias Agou and Malcolm Hutchinson. Hutchinson was an absolute beast all 4 years at Arkansas. An elite 7-foot rim protector with a better than average post game. He helped put Arkansas basketball on the map and inspired a younger generation of players to embrace the Razorback lifestyle, who later became known as the Low End Five, a group of sophomore sensations all from the Midwest region, who went undefeated in that 1990 season and won the NCAA tournament for the first time in school history. Josh Johnson, Akota Woods, Rondo Regine, Ross Carter, and King Stanley were the names to remember. 3 of those players were picked within the top 15 of that 1990 NBA draft and went on to have some great careers for their respective teams, especially Josh Johnson. He was a big rock-hard piece for Golden State's back-to-back championships. And Rondo Regine and Ross Carter were all-star caliber players. The other 2 guys had other plans. Akota Woods was selected with the 23rd pick in the 1990 draft, but was later charged after exposing himself to a 54-year-old milfy female trainer during his rookie season, allegedly saying, "Wee pee pee in your booty." He was then fined and banned by the NBA. King Stanley went undrafted and eventually ended up quitting basketball altogether, becoming a BD preacher on Chicago's South Side. In a recent interview, he claimed he was thankful that he didn't play professional basketball because it would have made him more of a quote-unquote erratic hornball, and that he is now a changed man who gave his life to King David. Regardless of how their professional careers panned out, that historic low-end 5 team was all inspired by Malcolm Hutchinson. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, but before I go, I want to announce the start of the Vision Sports Universe. So me and my guy No Cap Shaq have a connected sports universe, meaning some of his characters or family trees might pop up in my series, and somebody from my series who could possibly be one of your characters might pop up in his series. Like for example, maybe one day Bernard Ward might have a grandson in the NFL, or Reggie King might have a cousin in the NBA. So if you want to create a player for my series and keep up with the universe updates, and chop it up with some cool people, join our Discord, link in the description.